Here's what happens when you embrace change. For 10 years, I was teaching how to build a high-tech startup at USC. Most people just don't know the steps. And most people, given the chance, really don't want to try. So you're either working to make your dreams come true or you're working to make someone else's dreams come true. It's that simple. I believe that every obstacle is an opportunity in disguise. If you solve something for 5 people, you have friends. Solve for 1 million, you become wealthy. Solve for 1 billion, you change history.
What is up, fire starters? It's Sanyuka. So, the best way to describe my next guest on the All In CEO podcast is bombastic. He's like in your face. You know, he's coming for you. He's looking around the corner. He's coming for you. And he has been a leader, a life of success. He has been the chairman of Universal Music Group. He has been he has been a leader at Deloitte. He is one of those guys that when you put him in any environment, the environment gets better. He is a technologist. He is a very, very smart guy with a very, very sharp wit and a very, very, very entertaining presence at the same rate, and a very good friend of mine as well. Please enjoy this next episode of the All In CEO podcast featuring my good friend, Jay Samit. Absolutely a pleasure to be here with the illustrious Senor Jay Samit. How are you doing, my friend?
Fantastic. Good to see you.
It's good to see you. How have the last 2 years been for you?
Actually, you roll with the punches. So I'll give you a great example. So I have bad lungs, so I took COVID real seriously. Didn't leave the house, but I believe that every obstacle is an opportunity in disguise. So I wanted to show people that if you weren't sick and you weren't dying, God forbid, nobody near you, there was actually a silver lining. And the silver lining is in the January, 2020, before COVID, I was in 4 continents, 9 countries. That's my typical life. I live on an airplane. Now I'd have the gift of time. So I wanted to show people that they can make good use of this time. Mm-hmm. And so what I did is I opened my personal kimono. I've been out there and, written books and everything, but I never shared that I paint. It's my private thing, but I wanted to show people that you could do a painting a day. So I said on social media, I'd do a painting a day for the next, I figured the COVID would last 3 months. Little did I know how incompetent we were. But here's what happens when you embrace change. So I did it purely for the altruistic reason, wanting to help people. Surprisingly, people like my art. More surprisingly, art agents and gallery owners like my art. Mm-hmm. Next thing you know, I'm signed to a prestigious gallery in New York, Tattinger Gallery. And I have a solo show, which I didn't get to attend, my first solo show in New York. Mm-hmm. And now my art is collected by famous people, and it blows my mind.
Problems are an opportunity wrapped in disguise.
Yeah, because most people think entrepreneurs sell things.
Right.
They don't. They solve things. If you solve something for 5 people, you have friends. Solve for 1 million, you become wealthy. Solve for 1 billion, you change history. I've been lucky enough to be and work with some of the most disruptive, innovative people and changed history. And once you see that it's not the brightest, it's not the best educated, it's not the best connected, it's not where you start. And we're 1 click away from 7 billion people. So it's pretty easy to impact the planet. So once you have enough money for you and yours and all of that, you focus on how can you make the planet better? What big problems can you solve? And so at this stage of life, I only focus on the big stuff. I don't care about making any money.
I love that. I really love the idea of, you said, solve for 5 people, then you can help your friends. Solve for a million solved for a billion. All right.
Right.
So can I share with you a really powerful space that I'm in? That really speaks to what it is. Like, I want like your direct, I want to have like a real conversation on this, because this is like something that's really been, it's been an exercise for me personally. Real quick, my new imagination exercise and commitment is to think in terms of ways, is for the next evolution of my life, to step into a solution that impacts 1 billion people. And as an imagination exercise alone, this has been like, it feels like this expansiveness. It feels like, how do you step into the idea of solving for 1 billion people? Because the very first thing that like creating something that impacts 1 billion people. And
I think you're going about it ass backwards. Okay. The billions are relevant. There's a flight attendant named Sandy Stein, and she realized that she was fumbling around her purse all the time to get her keys.
Okay.
So this is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So she made a little clasp that goes inside a woman's purse that you hang your keys on. She became a millionaire on that part-time gig in 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There are 1 billion people with a purse. So it's not this exercise of, there's 1 billion people. It's got to be world hunger. It's got to be this. It's got to be that. McDonald's has served 1 billion hamburgers. Coke just poured billions of things. 1 billion isn't the focus. The focus is what's a problem, and then what's the size of the market? The total addressable market is what they would say at business school. So in Disrupt You, I teach people an exercise how to get a $1 million idea in a month. It's called 3 problems a day for 30 days. Mm-hmm. Write down 3 problems in your life today and do this every day for a month. The first day is real easy. I was in traffic, this or that. After day 2 or 3, people go, I don't have any more problems. Because they've accepted the way life is, and they walk around with blinders, and they don't see the moment by moment inconveniences that they've that's the way it always is. So a guy who you may or may not know, he was in metal briefly, a guy named Larry Twersky. He's doing this, and he's taking his medicine one morning, and the phone rings, and he talks, and then he gets off the phone and goes, "Oh, did I take my pill?" Well, if I took my pill and I take it again, that's bad. And if I didn't take my pill, that's bad. This is a problem. He germinates on it, takes a little Happy Meal watch, puts it on the lid of a pill bottle. Oh, I opened it 3 minutes ago. Oh, I haven't opened it for 8 hours. Calls it timer cap, sells millions. So it's about solving a problem. So at the end of that month, you should have 90 ideas. Some good, some bad. But you then will measure them on 2 axes. One is, what are you passionate about? Because passion will get you to persevere longer. Okay. Anybody can sell shoes, but Tom's Shoes gives a pair to somebody that's never had a pair. Right. I think that makes our employees feel, their investors, their customers. So be passionate about it. But you could be, passionate about making wheelchairs for frogs, not a big market. So the other axis is, what's the size of the market? And so the intersection between, I really care about this problem and it affects a lot of people, you already have the problem. Now you just have to work backwards from the problem and solve it. Most problems that still exist are because nobody looked at solving them. It's not because they were impossible to solve. My favorite one was a high school student last year. Mom and dad aren't professors, aren't doctors, aren't MBAs, just a regular working class family, and they have the high school science fair. Now, Jay is the living proof that at the high school science fair, I did the baking soda and vinegar and made a really cool looking volcano, right? I didn't save the world. This girl took it seriously, and she looked up that the 4th leading cause of death was being in a hospital. Not what you went to the hospital for, just being in a hospital, infections. Make a long story short, she said, why don't they make stitches that change color if the wound's infected? Played with the pH balance of different plants and vegetables in her vegetable bin, was smart enough to go get a patent. And now it's estimated a year later, she's saved 200,000 lives and she's saving millions of lives while still just starting off in college. makes me feel like a slacker.
Wow, that's pretty intense.
Yeah. And it happens every day. And the advantage of young people, now that I have the white hair of age, is to make it through a day, we have to do so much of our day on autopilot. I guarantee you put this same leg in your pants first every day. Watch tomorrow and you'll see. Trying to change it get you, really messed up. So we're on this autopilot. So we're not solving things. But a person comes along with no preconceived way of doing stuff, they have an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
When my son went to get his first apartment, I drove around with him. I go, "Oh, write down that phone number." He takes his phone and goes, click. I have a phone. I know it takes a camera. I know I take pictures. I come from there to write things down. I wouldn't think of using it for that purpose. So there's so many new technologies that those people running large corporations, those people that are on the wrong side of 30 or 40 or 50, aren't applying to very easy problems. Mm. So in future-proofing you, I talk about $1 trillion opportunity right now. Trillion, okay? That's wide open for everybody. Augmented reality. We're all going to be wearing glasses starting next year, and then the better ones come out in 2 years, that are an overlay onto the real world. Don't remember where your car's parked? There's a line in the parking lot. Mm-hmm. Somebody speaks to you in any language, you get subtitles instantly in your language. I mean, mm-hmm. So Google, Facebook, Apple are spending billions creating this infrastructure. What they're not doing is making all the apps that solve things. So mm-hmm. think back 15 years ago when the iPhone came out. Now mm-hmm. we've seen how many major companies were built off of just making an app. First year, let me tell you 2 of the top 10 apps. The fart app. You push it and makes 10 fart sounds. Top 10 bestseller. Mm-hmm. And a cat game. Meaning people didn't think of OpenTable and Robinhood right. and thousands of things. So now start saying, walk around for 30 days. What would I want to see on these lenses? What could it help me? I'll give you one that a friend's company is doing. They've scanned all 6 sides of basically every product at retail. So you could go into a supermarket and you decide you're going to go on the keto diet. Show me everything that is keto friendly. Every mm-hmm. other product disappears. There's 40,000 products in the supermarket. Or what's halal, or what's kosher, or what's vegan. Makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
So all these little things, the big guys did the hard part. I mean, one of the guys that I consult with actually has contact lenses that do this stuff. You ask me how, it's witchcraft. I don't care the how. Mm. They come to me for the why.
That's it.
And the why doesn't have to be world hunger. What would you pay to have your life just be a little bit easier? Just like finding your keys in a purse.
So you said they pay you for the why. Can we dig into that?
So I got a call a couple years ago from the number 3 at Google. They wanted to hire me to do some consulting. And I said, this isn't false modesty, guys. What the fuck do I know that Google doesn't know? When I want to know something, I Google it. You have tens of thousands of the world's greatest engineers. Right? Please, I'm all ears. And they go, how to get a product to market. Aha. Yeah. I brought some huge things to market over my career. Yeah, I think I could change your culture a little bit on how to do that. Mm-hmm. This area of spatial, where we'll have this enhanced ability, it will seem normal to everybody 5 years from now. Just like I can't go back to remembering how we did things before Google or how we did things before having a smartphone. Right? Mm-hmm. It'll be that level of change. Your phone will stay in your pocket. So if I was trying to build a company or make a quick 10 million, there's no easier place to do it. And it doesn't have to be complicated. When the iPhone came out, that took billions and billions of dollars and tons of the smartest people. And, you got to be a big guy. Great. Apple crushed it. But it also created a $65 billion a year accessory market. So the guy I'm impressed with isn't the guy that made the phone. It's the guy that sells you this 15-cent piece of plastic for $40. That's $65 billion worth of these.
Right.
And I learned that lesson when I was really young. The PC had just come out. And they were $2,500 after a car was the most expensive thing anybody would own. So while I'm making hit video games and different computer programs and all this new stuff, it's a wide open world. A friend of mine, Billy, says, if you're buying something that expensive, you're going to want a dust cover for it. So he makes plastic dust covers for PCs. He sells millions. Then the mouse comes out and goes, I can make plastic mouse pads. He never had to learn how to use a computer. And within 5 years, sold his company for $130 million to Rubbermaid. Right? So big companies don't invent things anymore. It draws down your earnings and the bonus for the CEO. I've been a NASDAQ CEO. So to invest in R&D that is a product that comes out 5 years from now, you don't get your bonus. So nobody's doing that. What you will do is when some young company figures out what you should have figured out, you just buy the company. So Google does this, Facebook does this, everybody does this. I mean, the reason why I was one of the founders of the robotics company is not that we want to build a giant company with hundreds of thousands of employees and save mankind. We want to do what the John Deere and American Harvester and Hyundai and all these guys should have been doing, but they don't have a robotics division. So let me solve the problem so that you can grow crops without any pesticides so we can get rid of cancer. And let somebody buy it and do the operationalizing of things.
I got people transitioning out of running their own businesses to needing operations people to be able to implement and everything. So I feel you on that. Have you always been you? Like this human being that you are now, like what was the transition point for you to get to this point? Like, did you always feel like, of course I can step into solving $1 billion problems, and of course I can be the guy that will, that can take a call from Google and feel like, of course I can add value immediately in this situation? Or like, do you remember seeing the change, or did you just evolve into it?
No, so I was born with a competitive advantage, a superpower. I'm dyslexic, which in school, they told me that made me dumb, but it just means that my brain's wired different. So I connect the dots differently. So I always could see different things, but, how do you get anybody to care? So when I got out of college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And there was a movie that really had an impact. You may have heard of it, called Star Wars. I go, that would be fun. I want to do Hollywood special effects. Couple problems. I know no one in Hollywood. I know nothing about special effects, and I don't have any money or equipment. So how do you solve the problem? I needed information. There's no internet. There's none of that. So I put an ad in the Hollywood Reporter describing an entry-level job at a special effects company. It's a blind ad. They don't know which company put it there. And I get a bunch of resumes. And those resumes give me two pieces of data. One, what will my resume need to look like to get into that business? And two, here's a whole bunch of companies that have employees with 1 foot out the door. So I solved. At the same time, I invested a huge chunk of my net worth, $1. And for $1, I printed 100 business cards of my made up company, Jasmine Productions. Jay Samit's mine, but Jasmine Production. But I knew nobody's going to trust the post-production on their feature film to a 21-year-old kid. So I didn't make myself head of the company. I just made myself head of sales. Went out and hustled and got some effects work on pictures. Guess what? I don't know how to do that, but I never have to, because you can always hire the people that just want a job. You only need two things to be successful: insight and perseverance. Everything else can be hired. So I'll give you another one. I'm maybe 24, 25, and I'm reading the newspaper that Ford Motor Company had to write down like $600 million in losses. The Japanese were taken over with their cars. Detroit couldn't compete. And the article said the reason why they were losing so much money is because all your Toyotas and Hondas had bumper-to-bumper warranties, so Detroit did the same thing. This is the 1980s. Problem was the cars weren't very good, which means Ford's paying for all those repairs. More importantly, the dirty secret of car repairs is 1/3 of all parts taken out are actually good parts. They're taking out a good part and just put in another one, keep doing until they find the right one that was the problem. Meanwhile, you, the consumer's been paying for all those parts. Well, now Ford was paying for that. So I said, wait a second. If I could change how they train the guys that work on these things, if I could make a touchscreen system, I could save them $600 million a year. I know I'm right. I'm also 25, know nobody in Detroit, and, same problem. So how do you solve for it? You put yourself on the other side of the desk. What would get that person to take a meeting? And so I noodled on this, and I realized it's America, apple pie, Midwest, everything. These people like football. Turns out there's a major university in Michigan, and they love football. And their football coach was retiring. So I tracked the guy down and said, I want to hire as head of sales for my computer software company. He goes, I don't know anything about it. You don't have to. Everybody's just going to want to meet you. So we go in, get a meeting. They talk about the game where the guy threw the thing and caught the thing. I know nothing about sports. And then they go, why's the kid here? And then I do my 2 sentences and they give me a contract. It's that easy.
Wow. What was the name of the coach?
The company?
The coach.
Jasmine Production.
Oh, the Michigan coach.
Ted Guthard.
Ted Guthard. Got it. Okay. Insight and perseverance. How do you refine what are the components of insight that are necessary to, let me just make sure we're talking the same language. So perseverance, do you mean like resiliency, the ability to withstand like the different seasons and weathers of change and evolution like through time? Is that a fair assessment? Don't give up. Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Got it.
You never know how close you are to the goal line until you cross it. So every once in a while, take a pause, look over your shoulder and see how far you've come. But yeah, perseverance. Insight, I can teach insight. So once I stopped building companies and selling companies and got bored with all that, for 10 years, I was teaching how to build a high-tech startup at USC. My best students one semester did $100 million in a semester. Future-proofing you know, Vin. I took a immigrant who grew up on welfare, mentored him 1 day a week for a year, gave him no capital, no contacts, and he went from homeless to self-made millionaire in 11 months. This is not difficult. You don't have to be super smart. You don't have to do anything. Most people just don't know the steps. And most people, given the chance, really don't want to try. Most people would like just to show up and, be part of the matrix. And, there's a great story of young guys in front of, young kids working in a big company, and the boss pulls up in a brand new Ferrari, and the kid's checking it out. And the boss goes, you like that car? He goes, yeah. Well, if you work really hard, I'll be able to buy another one next year.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you're either working to make your dreams come true, or you're working to make someone else's dreams come true. It's that simple.
Got it. Well, then if I'm working to make somebody else's dreams come true, what's the insight or some of the insights that can help me to get out of the matrix and get into this next possibility?
Well, that's why I have that, 3 problems a day for 30 days. It gives you more deal flow than a venture capital firm. You'll have 90 decent ideas at the end of the month. And you pick one that you're going to, bet the farm on. Now, motivation is part of what you focus on, that stuff. That came really easy. You waited till later to have kids. I had 2 kids when I was really young, and I wanted them to have a better life. So every time I looked down at them, I knew I couldn't quit. That was my passion. Give them a great life. And now they're fully grown. I got grandkids. They're great people. That was my main goal. All this other stuff was in service to that.
Got it. And you have 2 kids now, right? You have 2 sons?
Yeah.
Got it. What makes you what do you feel like is your greatest gift as a father? Like what the greatest gift that your children gave to you?
My children, unconditional love is the greatest gift that you get from a child. They're born perfect. You just, screw them up as hopefully as little as possible, but it's inevitable. What I wanted to show them is not that dad's some macho whatever, but if an idiot like your father can do this, you can do anything. You're smarter than I am. So, if I'm meeting the president or pope or something, I'd pull them out of school. I mean, they could learn more hanging out, seeing the real world. And, I never ask kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? I hate that. What problem do you want to solve when you grow up? Because at every stage of life, kids see injustice in their lives. And if they can solve that, then they'll have a purpose. If you want to have happiness, solve for others. That's where happiness comes from. I have a dear friend. She was lucky enough in like third grade to get her teeth knocked out by a swing in the schoolyard. I say lucky enough because a dental surgeon gave her back her smile, figuratively and in actuality. And that moment was like one of those epiphanies in the movies where the beam of light comes down and you hear the angels sing. She knew what she wanted to do with her life. She wanted to give people back their smile. And she's been a dental surgeon for 40 years.
Wow.
Right? I never had that. What am I going to be? What am I supposed to do? I mean, you have all these, fantasy crazy things. I mean, I would have loved to have spent my career being an artist. How are you going to support family doing that? I paid my way through college being a professional magician, would have loved staying doing that, but, you can't have it all at once. That's the other thing. The part that people read in future-proofing you that should be the epiphany is for 1 year, Vin did not watch TV, did not go on a date, did not go to a club, did not listen to music. Daytime was for selling, nighttime was doing for work. It was an unhealthy, unbalanced, but he worked 1 year of his life in a way most people won't, so he can live the rest of his life in a manner most people can't. And I think that's a fair trade.
He worked 1 year of his life, the way most people won't, so we can live the rest of his life the way most people can't. You know my experience of what Vin went through in the process with you is he went through an initiation. That was an initiation. That was trial by fire. You put somebody into an environment and say, this is the outcome, figure it out.
One of the first tenets, one of the 12 truths in future-proofing you is you have to have a growth mindset. I know you believe in growth mindset. I'm sure you talk about it on your show a lot. But I had to get Vin, whose parents were not successful, who grew up on welfare, who was told he wasn't going to be anything and believed it, how do I change that? And if I'm going to do the absurd thing of having him do it in a year, I need to change that mindset day one. So the way that I did it is I lied to him. Now, when I say I lied to him, there's a psychological principle called the Pygmalion effect. A professor went to school, tested all the students, and told the teachers, these 3 students are super learners, super achievers. They're going to do great this year. And sure enough, at the end of the year, those 3 kids outperformed everybody else in the school. The professor lied. He picked 3 names out of a hat. But if you tell people they're special and you treat them special, they become special. So I told Vin I had interviewed over 100 people. And he was the only one that had all the attributes to be a self-made millionaire. He didn't believe it, but he figured if this old dude sees it, I got nothing else, I'll go along with it. And once the first month, I think he did $60,000, $70,000. He could have flown to Europe without a plane. I mean, all I had to make sure is that, he stayed focused. And what was amazing, if you didn't read the book, at one point during the year, something that had no fault of his own came out of left field and took his business from hundreds of thousands of dollars a month to 0. So much so that I'm going, okay, it's going to be a book about a guy who made $400,000. It's not as catchy, but, la-di-da. I'm expecting at our weekly session him to come in that, and throw in the towel. But here's how much he had changed. He said, that wasn't working. So here's what I did. Boom, boom, boom. And he completely pivoted without so much as missing a day, and still hit his numbers and still continue to grow. And I was in awe, because I can preach it and teach it, but at his stage of life, I certainly would have been devastated.
Man, that's one hell of a pivot. Going from, hitting rock bottom in the middle of a process where you're trying to exit from rock bottom.
And when you did nothing wrong, it's just the rules of the world changed on you. Yeah, it was crazy.
But I guess that's one of the, that's the idea of future proofing yourself, is like to be able to weather through resiliency, that kind of thing. So
at the end of that year, Vin took a year or so off. Not because you can live the rest of your life on $1 million. You can't. Maybe there's some place, but let's talk about the U.S. But he knew he was future-proof. He knew that when he'd worked so hard, he wanted to take time off. He'd never traveled. He wanted to see the world. But he knew whenever he got tired of doing that, he could sit down anywhere and do it again. And now he has corporate clients, and now he's a completely different thing. So I wrote the book to try to scale and help as many people achieve their dreams, because we weren't taught how. School was about teaching enough math and reading so that you could go in the military or go to work for somebody, or, not to think for yourself. And once you think for yourself, the world's it's an amazing playground. There's nobody you can't meet. There's nothing you can't do. You're only limited by time and your imagination.
The experiment, at least I witnessed it as an experiment when Vin was going through that process. And one of the interesting things about Vin going through that process is that I was also in the process of stepping into a greater sense of belief in myself, and it was a very inspiring process, for Vin, to see Vin go through that process. And then obviously to, as the subject of the book, but just to see him go through it in real time, and the guy we're talking about is our mutual friend, Vin Clancy, and him being the subject of the book, Future Proofing You. And so for me, it was a very inspiring process, because I was in the process of rebuilding my life, at 36, 35, 36 around the time, 37, and stepping into a new form of belief within myself. So I appreciated that. And in that, I wanted to offer a couple things around this. So let's say we go through the process. We identify 90, come out of a month with 90 different problems, when we start to siphon through that. How can we take those 90 problems? How do we take the 90 problems to the ones we actually move?
As I said, what has the biggest total addressable market, and what do you care about? I'll give you a great example of a guy came in with a multi-million-dollar genius, foolproof, gonna make money. And I couldn't figure out how to get this guy out of the office fast enough without, something happening to me. Long story short, the true story, the guy has a contract. He makes bullets for the U.S. military. And so I had to mass up his manufacturing for war. And so they're not buying as many. So his excess capacity, which means he can make bullets cheaper than anybody, and can flood the market with cheap bullets and put all the other bullet people out of business and make tons of bullets really for nothing, because Uncle Sam paid for everything. I don't think I was put on this earth to figure out how to put more bullets out there, right? And it's like zero interest, like zero, right? I also wanted him out of my office without getting shot. I mean, so, those are be an idea that it's a real problem, I suppose, but not something I'm passionate about. On the other side of it, there's people that want to, I won't out anybody because that's not nice, but a very well-known billionaire asked me to talk to his wife because she was starting a business. And so I said, sure. And she found a problem. You cannot get vegan food at polo matches. Yeah, that is a real problem. Said no one ever. And this is what this woman wanted to spend her time and money delegating other people to build a business around. So that's not having. When I teach at the university level, this was before nowadays when you have ghost kitchens and you have Uber Eats. One of the first businesses everybody came up with in class was delivering food to the dorms. It's a bunch of hungry people. It's an easy business, 3,000 people, da-da-da. And I said to them, people want to eat. You know, you're in the demographic. You know what that is. But it takes the same effort to deliver to one dorm as to deliver to every. One's $1 billion business, Uber Eats. The other, you're going to make $1,000. So you can choose what scale you want to go after. They both may start the same. Groupon started with just one little town. Facebook started with just one campus. You prove it out. You get to what's called a minimum viable product, something that proves that it's going to work. And then, I mean, I've raised hundreds of millions of dollars for startups. VC's sole job is to give you money. You're the stripper. They're going like this. If you have something and you prove that it works and you just need to scale it, there's endless money. There's billions.
So if it's billions of dollars, we can sort of round on this. And this, I think this is really the magic. It's like there's billions of dollars floating out there, right? I still tell people money is not created. It is acquired. It's already in existence.
Not correct. So I got to take you off for that. Because that's one of my pet peeves.
Okay.
Most people think of business as a zero-sum game, like a poker game. There's only so much money on the table. So for me to be successful, I have to take your money.
Right.
Or you have to take my money. That's a limited mentality, that there's only so much money. And if he has it, I don't get it. And then if this person gets the job, and then I hate this group of people and I hate them, no, that's not where money comes from. Last company that I sold went from 0 to in 18 months sold for $200 million. Okay. So if I told you I was starting a new business and I'll let you invest, I'll give you 10% of it for $10,000. What do I now have? I have $10,000 in cash and $90,000 in equity. I can hire people with that equity. I can buy things with that equity. I can do stuff. Entrepreneurs actually create money out of thin air. That's why there's a new self-made billionaire every 17 hours. That's how many people are making $1 billion. I don't know what you did this past weekend, but you're a slacker. So you can actually create money. When a company goes public and it's worth $100 million, it doesn't mean that people poured $100 million. It means this many shares of stocks were sold. They're valued at this. So all the ones that weren't sold are valued at that. And you now have made money. That's where wealth comes from. It isn't printed in the mint.
It is created. And what are some of the qualities of the person who's brave enough to be the person that actually, what do you think is the distinction between the people that are brave enough to be those guys at the forefront? Creating the money, making that's it, creating that type of wealth.
The way you phrased it shows another problem. And I'm not picking on you. It's just we think different. You see it as brave. Okay. And you see it as brave. And I'm reading into this because there must be that the opposite of brave would be fearful. So people are afraid to fail. People are afraid of being embarrassed. People, and fear is not your enemy. By the way, you can't overcome fear. We're hardwired. Our lizard brain is fight or flight. Okay. There's nothing you can do to overcome fear. Every motivational speaker that does that, should be fired. But imagine for a second that you're walking down the street thinking of all your business problems, all your personal problems, all the things you're afraid of, and a big 18-wheel semi loaded with sharks, snakes, and spiders comes barreling towards you. What do? You jump out of the way, which means you can't overcome fear, but you prioritize your fears. So if you're afraid of losing money, if you're afraid of losing face, if you're afraid, let me tell you what you should put at the forefront of the fear to focus on. Every day you stay wasted and stay in the past, not building your future, is a day you're not getting back. It's one less day you have to work on what you're going to be. And I can guarantee you at the end of your life, you will have more regrets for the things that you didn't try than the things that you tried and failed at. Because failure isn't the enemy. When you fail, only one of two outcomes can happen. You either earn or you learn, but either way, you're propelled forward. Walt Disney's first company, bankrupt. Henry Ford's first company, bankrupt. Henry Heinz, bankrupt. Bill Gates, same thing. Did these people stop? No, they learned. Your baby just turned 1. So this year, you're going to watch something, which is the metaphor for how you can make it as an entrepreneur. A kid doesn't wake up one day and go, Dad, I'm going to walk across the room. They get up and they stumble, they get up and they stumble, they get up and they stumble. And then they overcome it. When you play a video game, you hit that immovable object, that unbelievable thing, and you hammer at it until you get past that obstacle. And lo and behold, there's another obstacle. That's what life is. So failing is part of the process. And once you realize how to handle fear and harness it, and by the way, you can harness fear of others. Not in the, I'm going to pound your face, I'm 9 feet tall. But that person sitting across the desk from you, what would motivate them to make a decision? Fear of losing their job? Fear of you going to their competition? Fear of all kinds of stuff. I invented an ad platform technology a few years back. And I realized, this is 3 elections ago, no presidential candidate was advertising on the internet. I'm like, this is insane. They're going to spend $2 billion and I want a piece of that for my company. So I went to the campaign managers and I was clear to them that who I was meeting later in the week. And if I'm right and somebody else wins because they advertised on the internet, they never get hired for another campaign. And if I'm wrong, they're just spending rounding errors. Who cares? So for what's called schmuck insurance, 4 presidential candidates all gave me a check. One named Obama. And it was that easy.
Oh, man. I love that it is not an endeavor in being bold and brave. It is just a matter in stepping into the ease and the flow of solving a big problem at a big enough scale to make a big enough impact.
Just solve for the person in front of you. That's where it starts.
I love it. Solve for the person in front of you. Maybe that actually ends up being the thing that you say in the mirror. How do I solve for the person in front of me every day? So
I say 2 things every day. Today can be better than yesterday, and I have the power to make it so. And the reason I say those, and science research is behind it, it's in Disrupt You can read about it, is by saying those and looking yourself in the face, it actually releases endorphins. It lights up the synaptic nerves, like lights on a Christmas tree. And studies show that when you have that positive mindset and you have those going, you're more likable, you make better sales, you're considered sexier. Life's better. So it isn't that success makes you happy. Being happy creates success.
Being happy creates, bald heads and beards create success as well. Those, dude, I love it. Jay, I am privileged and honored to be in your presence. And
cut it out.
Look, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't write books to make money. There's none of that. It's to pay it forward.
For sure.
Get started. That's where you start.
Disrupt You, future-proofing you, featuring Van Clancy. But Disrupt You was really powerful for me as well. So
I never thought I'd write a second book. It's just I get literally thousands of emails from people that it's changed their life. It's the most surprising and gratifying experience. One person has saved their life. I mean, these amazing, I call them love letters. I could be having a down day, inbox, there's somebody from some country that I've never heard of on a map somewhere. And I'm like, how did they find it? And how nice of them to write me. But anyway, I got this one that said, this is all motivational, but I could never do it. And that ate at me. And I said, where was I not connecting to a different generation? So by spending time with Vin, I learned how to communicate with that generation so I could put the thoughts in a way for Gen X and millennials to not see some old guy talking about old stuff.
Oh yeah, I don't see an old guy talking about old stuff. I see a sexy guy who's bald head and a beard who is talking about how we can solve $1 billion problem. Like what? and I was slacking last weekend apparently.
Now I know we're going to sell you some glasses because you need some vision.
For sure.
Anyway, my friend, it's good seeing you successful and happy.
Thank you,
Keep
man.
doing what you're doing.
I am, and you as well. Thank you for being on the All In CEO and future-proofing you and disrupt you as well. Where can they just learn more about you also?
My name, jaysamit.com. I don't sell anything. There's free workbooks that you can download from the website to help you get the most out of each chapter. But all good.
Love it.
Take it easy, buddy.
Thank you, Jay.